Welcome to the Advanced Sports Analytics Show here on Rotogrinders, brought to you by Jock Market. Stop throwing your money away. It's time to check out Jock Market, the app where daily fantasy becomes a stock exchange. Buy and sell shares of players in real time for real money. Download now for a 100% deposit match up to $50 using the promo code Grinders. And get this, if you don't turn a profit this week, Jock Market is running back their first market guarantee to cover your losses in week 6. So download Jock Market in the app or Play stores, or check out jockmarket.com, JOCKMKT.com, and use the promo code Grinders for a 100% deposit match up to $50 on your first deposit. So welcome to the show. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender Ed, Blender HD if you want to follow me there on Twitter. Joined by the man behind the dials, the numbers at the Advanced Sports Analytics, Stewart Gibson, as well as making his return, who occasionally graces us with his presence. It's Brandon Adams, who was bemoaning the fact before the show that outside of a nice showdown win, this year has not been the best for you.
Yeah, that's true. Through 5 weeks, my Sunday ROIs have not been impressive. My tournaments have had a lot of minus negative 80%, minus 90% type ROIs. But that showdown slate did get almost all of it back. It was nice. It's like in poker, you don't want to have the 5th, the 7th, the 8th, and then the no cashes. You want like no cash, no cash, no cash first. It was that was the first, and I don't mind that, but I want to turn it around on Sundays. It's been brutal to have pretty good lineups that just get demolished from an ROI standpoint.
Right, I call them the steak knives. Right, have you ever seen Glengarry Glen Ross? Right?
Yeah,
the sales challenge. You know, first place is a Cadillac, second place set of steak knives, third place you're fired. You know, like I view GPP payouts very similarly. Where you go through an entire season, it's like I'm getting 7ths, 11ths, 5ths, and then you look at the end of the year. Like this is what happened to me in baseball, especially on FanDuel, where I have like 14 top 20 finishes and like 9 in the top 10, and I'm negative on the year because like I have 1 second and then nothing in the top 5, and it's like every week that must have. I think we've had a lot of weeks these past 5 weeks where there's been a must-have player. Like I don't know about you, Brandon, but I like the slates where there are multiple paths to first. Like maybe there's 6 guys that score over 30, 35 points, but you just need to have like 3 of them, right? Because you could fit 3 of them. But when you have like Derrick Henry puts up 50, Tyreek Hill puts up 50, something like that, a tight end that, that's 12% owned that you don't have enough of puts up, 28. Like you're sitting there going, like, that like 96% of your lineups are dead to first, and you hope that the 4% get there, and they just don't get there enough. Don't you prefer, Brandon, the weeks where like, oh, there's 5 running backs that score 25 points. So it's like, as long as I have 2 of them, I'm good. But you don't want to have the one where it's like, if you don't have the 42-point scoring running, if you don't have Cordell Patterson, like you're done. You're like, you can't win first place like that.
I agree with you 100%, but we can say there's one good thing, Blender, which is there hasn't been a week of a must-have defense. Those are the most frustrating weeks.
I think the Bills. I mean, yeah, but I think
Bills put up what 19 one week. That's there have been weeks where a defense puts up like 26, and then you have the must-have defense, and those I think are very frustrating. Hasn't really been one of those. The Bills, they were an expensive defense, and then 19 is attainable. But also, while we're sort of reflecting on bad beats, we both shared the bad beat on the Slayton showdown slate where he dropped the pass. That was a painful drop. But let's get to it. It's all going to change this weekend.
Right, it has to change this weekend. We got well, it's very similar to last week. We got less games on the slate, obviously, because the Island games, the London game, bye weeks. So there's 10 games on the slate. There's 3 with a total 50 or above. There's one that opened over 50 that's now under 50. But we'll cover those games and talk about maybe some other games that are on the slate. But these are the games that are for game stacking purposes, you tend to target the most. So let's start with the Chiefs at the Washington football team. 55.5-point total. It's 3 points higher than any other game. The Chiefs have a 31 implied total, the highest on the slate. They're a 6.5-point favorite over the Washington football team, who has a healthy 24.5 total. If we take a look at this game, Stewart, this is going to be, unlike a lot of slates that we've had, 12, 13, 14 game slates, where the cost prohibitiveness of the Chiefs makes them not as popular as maybe they should be. I mean, you always get ownership on Hill, you always get ownership on Kelsey, you get ownership on Mahomes, but not as a group together. And especially with the run backs on the other side, it becomes a very expensive lineup. This week is not one of those weeks with Kelsey at only $7K at tight end. I mean, Tyreek Hill is expensive at $8,500. We have Clyde Edwards-Helaire out. So this $4,900 Darrell Williams should be a bit popular. I question the ceiling there. And then the run backs, you got Terry McLaurin, you got Ricky Seals-Jones as a punt tight end. I think both quarterbacks in the game are going to be top 4 owned on the slate. I think people are going to get sneaky and go, well, I'm not going to play it the Mahomes way. I'm going to play it the Heineke way. So, Stewart, based on your preliminary runs, I know it's only Thursday. So, things are being, the news is coming in and everything. Do you think that the ownership is worth the highest total game on the slate on a slate where we don't have as many games as we normally have?
Yeah, I mean, last week, I think my stance was to attack that game. That worked out terribly with, I had a ton of Dak, Schultz, Lamb, Dak, Schultz, Cooper type stuff last week.
Well, if you had the Giants, you had injured players in your line.
Yeah, right. Of course. Well, yeah. And of course, bring it back where you had, I had so much Evan Ingram just.
But he didn't get injured at least. But
no, I know.
Barkley, if you have Daniel Jones stacks, you did better than those lineups.
At least Barkley and Galladay have, excuses. Ingram's out there, anyways. My inclination would be to be underweight the quarterback kind of component of this game. Like you said, usually Mahomes doesn't soak up a ton of ownership, just given the larger slates or kind of more high total games. My lean would be to go with something like, and I know you kind of questioned the ceiling of Darrell Williams. I just think at his price, it's not like you need a massive, ceiling performance for him to I think the necessary ceiling for him at that price point is achievable. So I think my preliminary runs are showing a heavy favoritism towards going something like Williams, McLaurin, Williams, Seals-Jones, maybe even, attacking from you could go Hill, McLaurin. But yeah, I think my preference would be to go Williams, just given the good price. We're expecting a pretty good role for him. Has rushing in, pass catching equity. And I think is going to be popular, but not nearly I think getting leverage off of Kelsey, Mahomes is going to be more valuable than what you're giving up by going with Williams, who I don't know, we're projecting right now is a popular back, but certainly not chalk by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, that would be kind of how I would want to approach the game, being underweight on Mahomes, Kelsey types, and being overweight on Williams, Washington pass catcher.
Brandon, what are your thoughts on is this game avoidable in whole? Stewart's bringing the theory that to get more leverage, just don't play it as a stack, play these secondary combinations. Even if you're playing McCole Hardman, Diami Brown, Adam Humphries, the guys that would siphon off production from the higher owned, obviously higher price players. Or do you think there's a path on this slate where you play no one from this game?
Well, my preference is to play the game in tournaments. I have a lot of guys that I like this week that are low priced, low ownership in other games. And I'm going to be playing a lot from this game, and I'm going to be playing a lot of the obvious guys. Not getting especially tricky. I think Hill, Kelsey, McLaurin, Mahomes, like I'm going to play a lot of the obvious plays from this game, and just eat the ownership knowing that I have some plays that I like in other games that are going to be low owned.
But that would be the only reason,
just
Brandon.
like your MLB approach, right? I'm just gonna eat the chalk on the pitcher that's gonna get it done and take my variance elsewhere.
Would you rather do it from the Mahomes side or the Heineke side? Because I think a lot of people, if you say that you have like these lower owned, lower priced wide receivers, like you're more inclined to play Mahomes in the quarterback slot than hope that Heineke is going to be QB1 on the slate. But I think a lot of people are going to try to do it the opposite way with Heineke and then play a 6K wide receiver that has a higher ceiling. So based on your approach, I'm assuming that like your number one stack will be Mahomes plus, like if you do a 3+1, like Mahomes plus Hardman plus Kelsey plus McLaurin, like something like that. Then rather than use Heineke in order to pay up elsewhere for like a one-off.
Yeah, that's my plan. Kind of go the obvious way and take Mahomes. We've talked a bit about my changing rationales, my changing strategies as it relates to quarterback. But the short of it is that I pay up for quarterback in big field tournaments far more than I used to. And it basically relates to the idea that the site pricing has not really caught up with the way the NFL is enforcing rules, and the way the NFL is enforcing rules has really like made wide receivers better plays and quarterbacks better plays. And then you add to that the fact that the talent level we have at quarterback now with Kyler and with Mahomes, with Lamar, like it's something different than we've seen before with Josh Allen. Like these guys are putting up big numbers, and you put those things together, and the fact that the sites have not adjusted the pricing that much. And what it means is that, first of all, the quarterbacks have ceilings that they've never had before, where they can put up 40 for 8K or what have you. And that is still gives your lineup the overall upside that it needs to win a tournament. But also it gives you expected points per dollar that tend to be better than they are for the lower price quarterbacks. Like if you look at it this week, just for instance, you have, say, I'm just looking at an average of projections right now, and for QB on DraftKings, you've got Mahomes projecting at roughly 3.2 DraftKings points per salary dollar. And when you compare that to plays at other positions like Derrick Henry, say, or Najee Harris, these guys that are pretty good plays, they're getting 2.5 fantasy points per dollar. And when you compare it to the top wide receivers are getting 2.8 DraftKings per fantasy dollar. So you're getting more bang for the buck, if you, as it were, with the quarterback, and therefore I'm more willing to allocate salary dollars there. The pricing sort of has to be this way because wide receivers being more volatile, they would be too good of tournament plays if they matched QBs for fantasy points per salary dollar. But nonetheless, this is all a long way of saying that I am going to be playing a lot of Mahomes, and I am going to be playing this game a good bit and in a straightforward way.
Stewart, would you agree with me? I'm not saying that I'm doing this, but wouldn't the best leverage play in this game be Antonio Gibson?
Yeah, I mean, that checks out. I think he projects quite favorably. Would
I
you
mean, people are
be?
going to avoid playing. I mean, people like playing Antonio Gibson, but they're going to look at 6.5 point underdogs. Typically, McKissick plays the pass catching type of downs, the 2-minute offense. But like, what the Chiefs aren't good. Aren't as good this year as people think they are. Maybe their defense tends to just be a sieve. Like, who says that Washington isn't the one leading this game?
Yeah, and that's certainly like Washington is one of the more run heavy, run over expectation teams in the league. So I do think if you get kind of the unexpected game script, that would check out. And I don't know, to me, it seems like if you're playing Gibson, you do want to try to bring him back, bring back someone on the Kansas City side, or are you just Xing out Kansas City in an effort to, avoid essentially correlated outcomes with Mahomes, who's going to be popular?
Well, I think Gibson is going to be low enough to own that I don't mind. Kelsey at a weak tight end position, or a Hardman, or like, I think it's more likely that I think people underestimate how spread out the Chiefs' offense really is. If you Jordy Fortson catching touchdowns, Hardman
Yeah.
getting more targets, Demarcus Robinson, Josh Gordon now getting some more snaps. That I think a lot of it, essentially, like, I don't mind Hill because at 8,500, I don't think he's going to be the most. I think he's going to be the 5th most popular piece in this game. I think the most popular piece is Kelsey. The second most is Darrell Williams. The third would be Mahomes as the quarterback. The fourth be Hardman, and the fifth be Hill, because it's just hard to fit Hill into anything. So like to me, if I could, if that production gets spread out enough, like Hill's 8,500, so like Hill getting 23 points ain't gonna win you a GPP. Kelsey putting up 17 may not kill me. Darrell Williams putting up 16 may not kill. Like, it's quite possible that the Chiefs still get 30 points, come from behind in a win. Antonio Gibson has 2 touchdowns and 120 yards rushing, and really, like, the Chiefs aren't necessary pieces. So like, yeah. I'm not inclined specifically that if Antonio Gibson has a big game, well, now Mahomes has to chuck the ball. I mean, if anything, I maybe pair them with Hardman, play with a cheaper piece, and just hope that the cheaper pieces eat into the production enough. But I'm still with Brandon. Like there's enough low owned, high upside plays on the rest of the slate that I was going through earlier today, just mock building lineups using our current projections, our current ownership, and there were just as many Mahomes, like straightforward Mahomes lineups that project and are owned at similar levels as really contrarian stacks that include some of the higher priced one-offs and the higher owned one-offs that, like, if you wanted to X out this game, you could make a good enough lineup. If you want to play this straightforward, you can make about the same EV lineup also. So like, I'm not purposely avoiding this game, and I don't even know if I'm purposely being like under on the game. I think this is the type of game where if I'm building 150 lineups, that I'm like not capping anything, and just like wherever these guys fit, they fit. And if I get 8% Tyreek Hill and 22% Kelsey and 14% Darrell Williams or something, like whatever it is, like just slot them in. But like, I'm not building my entire build around this game that I think that Brandon might be doing. Like, you're probably, Brandon, going more out of your way to say, I'm devoting most of my, a large portion of your portfolio into many variations of this game. Well, I'm thinking more the realm of focusing on other games and then using the pieces from the Chiefs watching the game as kind of like the build arounds.
Yeah. I'm thinking like for GPP strategy, I like the approach. If it's say 20% up top for a win, I like being heavy in this game. If it's something outrageous like 50% up top for a win, then maybe I won't be on this game. I'm going to have sort of two different types of lineups, like the very obvious stacks in this game, and then something much more contrarian all around.
Okay, let's go to the next game on the docket. It is the Chargers at the Ravens. 52.5 total. That's up 1 point since open. The Ravens are a 2.5 point favorite with a 27.5 implied team total. The Chargers with a 25 even implied team total. Especially after this last week, right? We saw on Monday night with Lamar, like, going nuclear in that game. The Ravens passing a lot more. The Chargers putting up a lot of points in that game against the Browns. The Chargers naturally kind of like, they want you to run the ball. The projections in this game currently are not the greatest. Like, obviously there's a ceiling to all these players. Eckler, Andrews, Allen, Brown, Mike Williams, Jared Cook. We don't know the status of Sammy Watkins. And obviously Lamar and Herbert have 40+ point ceilings. From a median perspective, it's not as good as some of the other games on the slate, but you have to be interested in a game that has like a 50+ point total with a rushing quarterback and a Chargers team who's more likely to throw the ball 40 to 45 times in the game. So Stewart, based on your current models, like how do you pay 8,100 for Mike Williams? But I mean, Mike Williams could easily put up 40 points in this game. Like it feels as if I'm more likely to play like a single stack of like Lamar plus Andrews plus Keenan Allen, like something like that in this game, than really go anywhere else. Because really, from a median perspective, Mike Williams at 8,100 seems quite overpriced.
Yeah, I am a bit concerned about just the value on the Los Angeles side. I guess specifically Mike Williams, and I think just like the ownership on Lamar and Andrews are going to be pretty difficult for me. And my preference would be, at least as of now, is looking like just taking like individual pieces like Eckler or Keenan Allen. I think those are shining as the kind of best value spots in this game. I think part of that, just shaking out the way it is that the current kind of process I have for, as of now, is quite high on some of the other like middling total games. And I think that's probably squeezing out some of these, this game in particular, which is like high total, but not superb value. And I would say pretty high projectable ownership, particularly from the Baltimore side. So I think my preference would just be to get like just an individual value piece, like take Eckler as a one-off, take Keenan as a one-off, and try to game stack elsewhere.
Brandon, how much one-offs of a Marquise Brown are you going to have? Because you always like him under 6K. But would you be concerned about playing Marquise Brown one-offs when Lamar Jackson figures to be one of the highest owned quarterbacks on the slate?
No, I would be okay with it. I do like Marquise Brown just based on his profile, his distribution of fantasy points. He is a good tournament play. I thought he looked very sharp in the last game. He looks like very healthy, very fast, very motivated. For what that's worth, it did seem like Lamar the offensive line was troubled. I don't think I'm going to play a lot of Lamar this week, but I would be okay with Brown one-offs.
How about on the Herbert side?
I think that's a fine play. I'm not doing it personally, but the guy has so much talent. He's very clearly like a top 5 QB, and he can go off at any moment. So it's totally reasonable.
Yeah, but you seem similar to me that this game, I think, is going to be overowned for what the potential of it could be. But I still don't mind getting some of these individual pieces. And it seems like at 8,100, if I have 150 lineups, I'm going to have like maybe I end up with 3 Mike Williams one-off lineups. And I almost want to just X him out and just hope he doesn't kill me, because I had 0 Mike Williams last week, and no, that didn't go well.
Yeah. I'm mostly going to stay away. I personally, I'm doing a lot of Mahomes, and then I have some cheaper quarterbacks that I'll play in my contrarian lineups. Talk about it later.
Okay, go on to the next game on the docket. We got the Cowboys at the Patriots. Game opened at 48. It's now up to 51. Cowboys are a 3.5 point favorite. They have a 27.25 implied team total. The Patriots with a 23.75 implied team total. Based on the way that these two teams play, I wouldn't have guessed this game would have a 51 total. But I'm not the type of person that questions betting markets most often than not when it refers to using them to play DFS. Jacoby Myers may be a little bit owned. Amari Cooper at 6,000 may be a little bit owned, but for the most part, I mean, I don't think Prescott and definitely not Mac Jones are going to be owned in this game. We have to see the status of Damian Harris to see if he's going to play. If not, maybe Ramondre Stevenson gets a little bit of ownership. You know, Ezekiel Elliott, we still only have it like 5%. For a 51 team total, Stewart, I mean, some of these guys like don't project all that. I mean, the projections aren't all that great for this game, but it's very similar to the, like, from a total as a game, price-wise and all things combined, it's very, to me, I view it similar to the Chargers-Ravens game. And that game is going to be like 5 times more owned than this game. Am I nuts to say that why is the game a 51? Like, I would have literally expected this game to have like a 44, 45 point total. But if the number's gone up 3 points, why aren't they playing Prescott, Cooper, Schultz? Why aren't they playing with a Myers run back? Why aren't they playing Mac Jones in this? You know, why not? At nothing. I mean, play Hunter Henry, Mac Jones, and Jacoby Myers with a Amari Cooper run back or a CeeDee Lamb run back. Like, none of these guys are going to be owned enough that, like, any combination like that, like the rest of my lineup, I could just jam in the best projections and I think I'm good. So am I weird here to kind of, people may expect this game to be slow and low scoring, but if the betting markets have their way, this is the 3rd highest total on the slate.
Yeah, no, I don't hate like the game environment. I am a little concerned about the value on the Dallas side. Like in previous weeks, I think there's just been really great value, and don't really feel that way this week. But I definitely don't hate the New England side. I mean, I think it's not like the greatest ceiling with, you know, you could go like Jones plus Jacoby plus, you know, I guess like Jonnu Smith or, you know, or Hunter Henry or something like that. But I think like for me, the minimal ownership, you got a good matchup going up against Dallas. I mean, and I think there are compelling bring back options, like you said. I mean, Schultz, I really like, although he's going to be tough to fit in with, you know, if you're playing one of the New England tight ends. Of course, the receivers on the outside for Dallas are, you know, high upside plays. My preference would be, though, to look at it from the New England side. They're showing up as one of the higher rated kind of team stacks in our model, and certainly one of the higher rated, like, low ownership stacks in our simulation.
Brandon, are you of the same opinion of me that, like, at first look, using our like football sense, like, it doesn't seem like this game has like the ceiling as a whole to like beat out the Chiefs Washington game. Yet from a total perspective, compared to the prices of these players, like, if you want to believe in the efficient market hypothesis, like, is it weird for me to think that maybe at the levels of ownership that this game is going to have, why not take a shot? And if you're concerned about Mac Jones, I mean, if the Cowboys come out and throw the ball, like Dak Prescott has a 40 points. I mean, Dak Prescott has shown to have a 40+ point ceiling. It's just that they've been running the ball, other than the first game against the Buccaneers. They've been mostly a run heavy type of offense. Is this the type of week where in large field GPPs, everyone expects them to continue that trend and they just bucket, and they're up against the Patriots and Bill Belichick's planning to put 8 guys in the box or something, and then they just go out and throw the ball 42 times. Am I nuts to consider that at this ownership? Why not take a shot at that happening?
Yeah, I think it's a good play. And it's also worth noting that the 4 p.m. games are going to be short on good plays. And so it gives you a little bit of strategic flexibility if you choose to target this game more than other people do. I mean, even for instance, even if you only played one player here where other people were playing mostly 0, it gives you a little bit of strategic flexibility. I think the way ownership shapes up this week, you will have almost all the ownership on the 1 p.m. game. So it's going to be a strange week. And there are like substitution ranges. So like right around 7,000, you could play Lamb, Elliott, Chubb, Waller, Hunt in the late games, but like you can just sort of, I don't know about you, but I sort of enjoy like the strategy of the winner take all tournaments. So I like to play the winner take all tournaments, and it's very valuable in those to have the strategic flexibility where you, for instance, like can make that late game pivot to something that you're sure someone else is not on. But yeah, I think in terms of like focusing on this game for a stack, I do think it could be a good play. Now, Stewart, if you were, let's say, deciding to focus on this game, what of the correlations suggest are good pairings? It does seem like a week where maybe some of these double stack possibilities are reasonable. Do you think, what do we know offhand about the Lamb Cooper correlations? It's pretty, we would not want to pair them in general, right?
Yeah, pulling it up now. I mean, they do have decent positive correlation plus nearly 0.3 dating back to last year. I mean, they've had pretty good like coincident, not as in they're a coincident, but they coincide like realized ceilings. I mean, we have earlier this year, opening weekend, looks like, Cooper for 42, Lamb for 26. So they've, let's see, touched, that's a combined up over 68. They've combined for nearly 62 before in 2020, gone up against Cleveland, no overtime games. Like, I do think they have a fairly achievable ceiling. So I don't know that it's necessarily one to avoid.
Yeah, I mean, that would get you there. Obviously, if you got close to 40 from Dak and 62 combined or 68 combined, neither are priced so strongly. So that would get you there. The tight ends, personally, this is one of these things where like week 6 is a little bit of a sample, but not quite enough of a sample. I'm not convinced that like Schultz is the guy over Jarwin. There's a tendency to convince ourselves of that based on the short sample, but I wouldn't play those guys in like an important lineup personally. So I would prefer like the premium Dallas pairing, like the Lamb Cooper pairing. What pairings on New England makes sense, like a Jonnu. What's the correlation with
It's-
Jonnu?
I mean, it's hard
We
to
don't know
say
yet.
with,
We don't know yet.
yeah, there's no sample. I mean, I think one thing that does stand out, both Cooper and Lamb have strong positive correlations with just cumulative offensive scoring that opposes them. So I think like it's not like rocket science here, but if you are stacking Lamb, Cooper, Dak, I think you do need to strongly consider bringing back a New England side. I think if this game gets to the point where there's no value on the New England side, you're going to be sunk kind of as is with those three premium Dallas guys. As I think there's a decent chance they go pretty run heavy.
Let's go to the next game on the docket, which is also another late game. This game opened at 54. It's now down to 49.5. It's the Cardinals at the Browns. The Browns are a 3-point favorite, 26.25 implied team total, 23.25 for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, looking at projections currently on Thursday, this game is going to be pretty low owned, but as of right now, I do not have a single player in this game that has a positive salary adjusted value. Like not a single player, because you got Chubb and Hunt, 7,200, 6,200. They vulture each other, the production there. Chase Edmonds is up to 5,600. And obviously you have James Conner at 5,500 stealing goal line touches. The Cleveland passing game seems to be all over the place. The Cardinals passing game is all over the place. Stewart, am I nuts to say that, like, I've tried to build these lineups. I built lineups earlier today. The lineups that play like a 3+1 of this come in like easily 6 or 7 points lower projected than any other lineup that I can make. Other than for strategic reasons, being that it's late, right? That it's one of the 3 late games. It's quite possible I may not have any Murray, any Mayfield, and like maybe I could consider Kyler Murray because he hasn't run much this year, but he does have a ceiling. But they're actually the dog in this game. I'd much rather play Kyler Murray when he has a 27, 28, 29 implied total. Am I nuts? Just like am I nuts in the Cowboys-Patriots game? Am I nuts that even though this game, is now a 49.5, that like I really don't have interest in, I barely have interested in a lot of these people as one-offs.
Yeah, I think that all makes sense. And I'm like looking through our projections as well and seeing pretty weak projections across the board. I do kind of like this game.
It's the Browns that you have, right? It's the Browns. You got to always like the Browns game.
I prefer actually the Arizona side. I think, I don't know. Kyler's just got that huge ceiling in him. I think he's not going to generate much ownership, really hardly any. No Max Williams, so maybe a few extra targets here and there. So I do kind of like say Kyler, Rondale Moore, like Hopkins, or some like Kyler Moore, Chase Edmonds.
So the secondary piece is not necessarily like playing the big stack with Hopkins and then like running it back with Chubb. Like if you get like, I can understand if maybe I end up with some lineups that look more like that, like look more like Murray, Moore, Hooper, or like something where I'm not spending that much on the total game stack, rather than just like if you do Murray, Hopkins, Chubb, like dude, that stack is like that's like more expensive than the Chiefs stack. Like why don't I just play the Chiefs Washington game at that point?
No, I'm looking at stuff like Rondale Moore. I kind of like is just a valuable piece, just given his price, potential role. Looking at stuff like Kyler Moore, I could even do like Kyler Moore, Hopkins, running it back with like Odell or Hooper, or even going from the Cleveland side, something like Baker, Hooper, Odell, or Baker, Hunt, Odell, come back with like Rondale Moore. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. It's really just the way kind of it's coming out in our stuff. Like I think there's relatively low value for this game, but just given the ownership and just kind of the distribution of outcomes that we have on some of these guys showing up as a positive, not like the greatest game, but certainly a game that I would put kind of a small plus next to.
Brandon, outside of ownership, is this game appealing to you?
Not really. I think it started out as a low value game, and then I'm guessing that they're projecting some bad weather. I'm guessing that's why the total has fallen. Tough to peg the individual pieces. In large field tournaments, I think like Chubb or Hunt, especially Chubb, would be a good play just because the ownership has been low on those guys. People shy away from them based on the split workload. So I think there are some fine tournament plays, but I really won't be on the game much.
Okay, so
Because Cleveland does, the bad weather should deter you. And because Cleveland does run the ball so much, it does limit the upside of all the individual pieces in the game. You can take your chances on, say, Chubb in a tournament. And at the new price, I do think it's wise to take a scattering of Odell if the weather turns decent. Just based on the price and what we know the opportunity is. In terms of the stats, I love Odell, but he's overowned because of the highlight reels. And if you look at the number of games where he's logged tournament winning performances, like the number of times that he's been in like a tournament winning lineup, I think it's like two times career. Like he has not been a good fantasy play if you've played him a lot. He has really been a very bad fantasy play, especially relative to his ownership. But all that said, I think that at the new price, you can take some shots.
Okay, now let's look at some of the other games on the slate that don't make some of the higher totals. The next highest total and the second highest implied total, team total on the slate is my favorite stack as of right now of the week, and that is the Rams at the Giants. The main reason is, number one, the Rams high implied team total, almost as close to the Chiefs. The highest owned running back on this slate is most likely going to be Darrell Henderson at 6,000. We have him currently projected for about 25% ownership. Then completely negatively correlated to that would be, why aren't they playing Stafford plus one of Kupp or Woods plus Higbee, or, plus Van Jefferson at 3,400? Why can't I just double stack Stafford? And the Giants, they could just throttle the Giants through the air also. I mean, and also depending on the injuries for the Giants, like Sterling Shepard may be back and he's 5,000, and Slayton may be back and he's 3,800. I mean, maybe I don't play Kadarius Toney and people go with the recency bias. Oh, now Shepard and Slayton are back and people are going to play a $5,600 Kadarius Toney. I'm not. Or they're going to play Devontae Booker at 5,400. Maybe this is the time, since everyone's playing Kelsey, you play Evan Ingram as your run back and hope that he finally gets there once in his career. I think from a leverage and an upside standpoint, you could kill 25% of the lineups. If Darrell Henderson just goes, 15 for 60 with no touchdowns, and the Rams just get there through the air, like I get one of the highest stacks of the slate, and I kill 25% of the lineups at the same time. Brandon, and I'll say it, this is the third time I'll say it. Am I nuts for thinking that this is from a value versus ownership? That if you're going to pivot from the Chiefs, why can't I play Darrell Williams in this lineup? Like play for Darrell Williams to get 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, take away from the Chiefs stack, and then stack the passing game in this game, which takes away from Darrell Henderson, who's more likely to be in Mahomes' Kelsey stacks, like the other way around. To me, like the logic, it probably won't work out, but the logic kind of like from the construction of the lineup, from a relative value standpoint, like makes sense to me. And the lineups actually project well. Like I'm not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Like if I take out Darrell Henderson and I play the Stafford stack and Darrell Williams that lineup, they project and are owned as much as if I played a Mahomes stack. But I think less people are going to be doing this. Are you on board?
Yeah, I could be talked into it. I think the issue is that I agree with the fading Henderson bit more than the play the Rams.
So if you faded Henderson,
intuitively, you don't want a clock burning game. You never want on a big slate like this a game that goes into clock burning territory, right? And the spread is telling you that it's going to struggle to stay close. And how does
that's why you play against
right? Like
this is how you win tournaments, Brandon.
No,
I think that maybe the Giants keep it close enough.
Well,
Daniel Jones probably plays. It's not Mike Glennon. Why can't the Giants keep it close enough?
Make your statement there. I don't know. Make your statement there a fade of Henderson, I guess, is a strong enough statement for me.
Okay, but
because Henderson's popular because he's good value. He's been a bit of a bell cow, and the game script is likely to suit him.
So if you're fading Henderson, that means you think it's not Henderson. You're going for the not of that game script. So what would be the opposite of that game script? The Giants keeping it close and the Rams passing the ball.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, consider the middle solution of making your statement by fading Henderson.
Stewart, are you with me?
Yeah, I think I'm team Jordan here, and just kind of the thinking of, yeah, I mean, I love this Rams stack. Stafford, you can go Cup Woods. I think Higbee's a good leverage spot against the likely popular combos of like Mahomes Kelsey or Lamar Andrews. I mean, just Vegas, looking at the implied total for the Giants, like, I mean, I guess we just really, I mean, the Rams are a good defense. To me, I just like assuming that Jones plays and he gets like Shepard and Slayton back. Like, I don't, to me, like a 10-point spread in favor of the Rams seems
at home nonetheless, right? Because they're a home dog by 10 points.
It just, to me, I do wonder if, I don't know. I just kind of expect this game to be closer, and like the Giants let down me and many other, Cowboy stackers last week. But they, everyone got injured. I mean, they had nobody, and I think they're just going to have, the full kind of team back, of course, minus Saquon, but like I'm not
minus Galladay also. I mean, it's not the full team.
Yeah, but I think
it's not going to be John Ross and CJ Board as their wide receivers.
Yeah, and assuming Jones plays, I mean, to me, like this game environment that's kind of being projected is almost like conditional. It almost is structured as if the expectation is Jones won't play, but I'm working on an assumption that he will. Yeah, I don't really have too much more to add. I think you kind of said how I'm thinking about the game, Jordan. I think great leverage against Henderson. The Rams passing attack can get there in the game environment that Vegas is currently projecting. And I think also there's a pretty decent chance that the game is more competitive and the Rams aren't going to skew as pass heavy as expected. I mean, both these teams, at least from the metrics I'm looking at, kind of passing slightly above expectations. So I don't know. I think this is a really great game environment. And given, well, not great. I mean, it's obviously not like just it's not going to make up for the 4-point or 6-point difference in total that we're seeing between this game and say like, the best game environment of KC Washington. But to me, like this, I kind of would have this game environment like right up in there with some of these other ones mentioned, like LA, Baltimore, Arizona, Cleveland. I think it's really a good spot, and really, really like the Los Angeles passing stack.
Brandon, are there any other games that you're looking at as a stack?
Yeah, I'm gonna play some Carson Wentz. The Houston defense has been quite weak, and I could see Wentz coming off. We don't have a great sample on him recently because he's been injured, and this is the freshest he's going to be. And he's not getting T.Y. Hilton back, right?
I don't think so. I mean, as far as I can tell, no, I don't think he's coming off the IR. We don't currently have him in the projections.
Yeah.
But if he wasn't getting, who are you going to pair him with? Are you going to tell like Pittman plus Mo Alley Cox or something? I mean, like, who's the second? Would you just single stack him? What's the second guy? Or do you play?
Yeah,
Jonathan Taylor with him?
I would just pair him with Pittman. I think that it's really just going for a different lineup construction where the top QB plays do not reach their ceiling. They do not reach 40 points or close to 40 points. And if that happens, then it's very likely that your winning construction will be pay down at quarterback, and one of the low owned kind of 5,500 type quarterbacks that happens to get low 30s. That's what your winning lineup looks like. So you're just sort of playing for that outcome. You don't have to get the stack perfect. But I think
do you run the Colts back with Brandon Cooks on the other side?
Yeah, I would tend to do that. So I would play that sort of obvious stack of Wentz, Pittman, run back Cooks. Because I mean, there is a reasonable chance that that the cheap quarterback construction is a good play. We do have a lot of high price running backs and high price wide receivers in really good spots. And if the Mahomes and Kylers of the world don't go off, then it's likely that you'll want an outperforming cheap QB with some expensive running backs and receivers.
Stewart, is there any other game that you're looking at?
Not so much from a team stacking perspective, but I like the opportunity for secondary stacks between this Detroit Minnesota game.
I think Carolina, Minnesota.
I'm sorry, Detroit Cincinnati.
Okay, that game. Okay.
I talented receivers on the Cincinnati side. Like the value in Swift. Jamal Williams, I think, is interesting as kind of a deep dart throw type play, but he's had, not a terrible kind of rush role. He's actually, outrushed Swift in the last 2 games. His pass catching role has been kind of down relative to what we're used to seeing. But 4,900, super cheap. Imagine he won't get a ton of ownership, as I think people are going to gravitate towards like Darrell Williams.
Well, also, I think a lot of people are going to play Swift.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
So obviously Jamal Williams is direct negative, correlation to Swift. So if Jamal Williams happens to be the one to get, the work and the touchdowns, if the Lions are leading, especially, which they're not predicted to. But no, this is a game where I think Burrow is going to be overowned because the people are going to make Burrow plus Chase plus Boyd plus Higgins plus whatever type of things, run it back with Swift. I think that I don't mind those stacks. I just think they're overowned. Weird for me to say that, like, I almost prefer Goff, right? I almost prefer making Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown plus TJ Hawkinson, and then run it back with Joe Mixon. Like, do the complete opposite of what other people are doing. And if I don't do that, then you just secondary. Like I like the secondaries. I like the Mixons. I like the Detroit receivers to be leveraged off of Swift, and Mixon to be leveraged off of the Bengals wide receivers. But the stacking combinations, I think, will be a slightly overall, maybe not Goff. Brandon, is Amon-Ra St. Brown one of your cheap wide receivers?
No,
No. Oh,
No.
I thought I got one. You
no,
said you got some cheap wide receivers for us.
yeah, but I was just looking at the mid price, like guys like Pittman and
Oh, that's not cheap.
Cortland Sutton.
What
and-
neighborhood do you grow up in? That's not that you're going to Whole Foods. I'm going to Aldi or whatever, right? Come on, I'm going to the farmer's market for my receivers.
Well, to be honest, I've been looking a bit-
$5,800.
I've been looking a bit more. I've been looking a bit more at FanDuel this week, to be honest. But in terms of the 3 to 4K DraftKings guys, I think Waddle. Okay, he's a bit above that range at the 49.
Well, Waddle isn't on the slate.
Oh,
so I
Waddle's
can't
on
play
the.
him.
He's on the early slate. I was going to say. I think it's worth spending a bit of time. We kind of glossed over on the KC side. If you're going to go over if you're going to go for one of the non-obvious stacks, what is the way to play it? Historically, Hardman has been the guy, but now the situation is more complicated. Who do you see are the plays if you're going to go cheap at KC? I think personally, it's kind of only Hardman, because Gordon, it doesn't seem like he can get there, and Pringle is not viable for me. So
No, it'd be Hardman and Williams.
yeah,
I don't see anything wrong with that, using one of them.
yeah.
I mean, we also have some cheap receivers. I mean, I'm going to go through what we currently have projected at wide receiver, just by RGV, and find anyone that's under 5K. I mean, the number one under 5K in our salary adjusted value plus minus is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then we got let's see, under 5K, Hunter Renfrow. I could see where the ceiling doesn't exist kind of there. Robbie Anderson, maybe
Robbie Anderson, yeah, I think
Darnell
he's
Mooney,
a good tournament play.
right? Darnell Mooney, Nelson Aguilar, 4,000. I mean, these are guys that can catch 60-yard passes. I mean, we got some cheap options, but I mean, we got some cheap.
Dan Jefferson, if you wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Brandon, you're coming to the Dollar Tree with us. Finally.
Okay.
Right. It's like Michael Pittman at 5,500 is a cheap wide receiver.
And look, I mean, Odell Beckham, to be fair, is 5,100 on DraftKings. So.
Right. But that's not cheap. When we say cheap wide receivers,
Okay.
4K range or below. I mean, come to the ghetto where we live. Come on.
Are we putting any manual boosters in for the Amon-Ra St. Brown Oktoberfest narrative? You know that him and Equanimous are both German.
Really?
Yeah. I think their father, one of their parents is German, and maybe even a professional athlete. So there is a sneaky Amon-Ra and Equanimous Oktoberfest correlation narrative that we could be deploying. So, something to keep in mind. I'm still working and fitting that into our model, but
Brandon, I got one last thing to wrap things up. One person that we have not mentioned this entire show, so we haven't mentioned that game, is what is your priority in playing Devontae Adams at 9,000?
I think it's a fine play. It's sort of obviously a fine play based on historical data and price. The question is, at the ownership, do you want to be in a crowded space? And I don't really have a sense of what the ownership will be, because he's got a lot of competition, right? This KC game, a lot of people will go to Hill and Kelsey. That eats up a lot of salary. So
I still,
Really-
we have him,
really
we
just
have
a
him projected
realistic-
as 21. We have him pretty high. So I think
21?
don't. Yeah, we have him as the highest owned wide receiver on the slate.
I'm not afraid of 21.
And also, I think I'm not afraid. Like Devontae, if Devontae Adams gets 26 points, like he's not going to be necessary. Like Devontae Adams has to put up 35, 40, 45 points at 9,000 to be like, okay, now I'm scared. Now, out of all the wide receivers that we have, obviously he's the one that could put it up, the most likely to. But I think from a lineup construction perspective, that unless you're getting 35 plus from Adams, I think he's not going to be in the optimal lineup. Like he may
Can I disagree?
Lineup,
Can I
but not the
disagree with you
optimal.
on this point for a moment? Because we have 5 minutes to debate it, since this was our last game to cover, right?
Sure, yes.
Okay, so let's debate this. Okay. You shouldn't need this week 35 from Devontae to play him. It would be, let's just take, for instance, a 1,000 person tournament. Okay. Cause that's probably like around the average size people might be considering, not a million.
People play much bigger tournaments.
Okay. But like,
You're
speaking millionaire maker only.
I'm speaking the slant, which is still like what 60,000 entry. I'm still a large field, maybe not the milli, but not the smallest. If I consider the smallest field that I'll play, like as a normal, it would be the SPY, and that's still 5,000 entries. So like when I look at Devontae Adams, I go, unless he puts up 35, like I don't think I need him. Like I think I could get those points. I'm not going to need the nuts. But I mean, in 1,000 person contest, yeah, with the 35 points, you could win with that. Because, the winning score in that contest may be 30 points lower than the slants winning lineup. So I get your, it's all contest specific. Understand that, like, I'm typically in this show, I'm gearing it towards like the small field, the small entry, large field types contests, the milli, the slant, the play action, contests where it's not nuts to go, I'm going to fade the Chiefs, fade Darrell Henderson, and play a Mac Jones stack. Like, obviously in a 500 person contest, like I'm nuts to do that. Like I know that. Yeah.
So I agree with you. You only have to be concerned with the 35 kind of outcome. If the context is the millionaire maker, I think like this might be a week for millionaire maker strategy where your best play is to go ahead and eat like Kelsey chalk at tight end, because tight end is the one spot you have to play one guy. And we know based on the data that it can be hard for all of your lesser options to replicate even like a 65 percentile Kelsey week, right? Like it could, of
So you're
course,
telling me that Evan Ingram's not going to score 28 points this week?
Yeah, I mean,
No, he's not. I'm kidding. I know he's not.
I would say that like, yeah, this might be a week where it would be okay to eat kind of that Kelsey chalk. And then for millionaire maker strategy, personally this week, I would kind of go with the low priced, low owned running back options and take your chances on one of those hitting. And then be okay with some chalk at mid and expensive wide receiver.
No, I could definitely say, I mean, that's typically how I build. I mean, playing those 5K, 6K, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Swift, Henderson, Booker, Gibson, Damian Williams, like that range, Devontae Williams. Like you just hope for good running back variants, and then you don't have to worry about the ghetto wide receivers, right? Right. You don't need to have Amon-Ra St. Brown in your lineup, no matter if it's Oktoberfest or not.
Yeah, the week looks It looks like a fun one. It looks pretty wide open. I like this slate.
Stewart, I didn't expect the Oktoberfest narrative.
I mean, probably didn't know Amon St. Brown. Amon Ra St. Brown was German.
Well, that's why you're paid the big bucks at Advanced Sports Analytics. So people could get the your stuff there as well as the Substack, which obviously we're a day early than we normally will record. So that'll come out tomorrow.
Yep.
So advancedsportsanalytics.com, right?
Yep. Twitter, AS Analytics DFS. Yeah, we'll have the Substack out tomorrow afternoon, probably. Be updating projections through the weekend. I mean, I think it's definitely going to be, stuff could potentially change. I mean, it would be interesting to see what happens with Cook. I mean, Melvin Gordon being ruled out, I think could open up, some stuff with like Javonte Williams and potentially Las Vegas. So, paying attention to the Giants injury stuff, I do expect, some stuff to move around as we approach Sunday. So yeah, we'll be updating projections, tools, etc. As that stuff kind of comes out.
Brandon, any poker challenges coming up?
No, I'm got no poker until the main event. I'm gonna be out there either like 8 days before the main event or 1 day before the main event. So we'll see.
And how long you're staying there, it depends on how long you go on the main event.
Exactly.
Okay, you can find Brandon Adams on Twitter. Also, all the links are in the show notes. Like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, give me those thumbs, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to know when we go live. As always, this show is in the daily fantasy football pod feed on Rotogrinders. So subscribe on iTunes, rate and review it there. And for Stewart Gibson, for Brandon Adams, I'm Jordan Cooper. And we'll see you next time on another edition of the Advanced Sports Analytics Show on Rotogrinders.com.